and welcome to OMG Crochet and Crafts. Today we're going to do a stitch tutorial and I'm going to show you how to do this beautiful Celtic weave pattern. So I'm currently working on a little cropped jumper that has front and back panels made up of this Celtic weave pattern, but I thought I'd do a quick little stitch tutorial just to show you how it's done in case you don't want to watch the full jumper tutorial. It's much easier to watch a quick stitch tutorial. So I'm going to get my yarn out and we'll get started. So the Celtic weave stitch pattern is a more advanced stitch pattern than I have shown you previously. It's worked with front and back post treble crochets and front and back post double crochets throughout the pattern. So you'll need to make sure that you're competent with those stitches before trying to give this pattern a go. And to work on our pattern, I am using Knitco Aran Country yarn and a 5mm crochet hook. And for this pattern, you will need to chain multiples of 4. So I'm going to do 28 stitches, but however many stitches you need, as long as it's a multiple of 4, you'll be fine. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. Okay, so we have our 28 chains, and we are going to start in the third chain from the hook, and these first 2 chains don't count as a stitch. So we're going to put a double crochet into the third chain from the hook, and then into every chain going along our row. So I'm going to get my double crochets done and I will come back to you at the end of my row. Okie dokie, so we now have 26 double crochets and 2 chains going across, and we're going to start with the first row of the weave pattern. So to start every row, you're going to do a chain of 2, and again, those chains do not count as a stitch. Okay, and chain of 2, and in this first stitch, we're going to put a double crochet, like so. Okay, we're now going to be working front post treble crochets going across the rest of the row, but we're going to be working on these first 4 stitches here. Okay, so we're going to start by wrapping our hook twice, and then we're going to skip these first 2 stitches and do a front post treble crochet across this third one. So like so, and again on the next stitch, like so. Okay, we're now going to go back and work these first 2 stitches. So we're wrapping our hook twice, and we're going to go front post through this first stitch here and finish the stitch, and then front post again around this stitch here and finish off the stitch. And that is what this first pattern row will look like. So you've just made a little cross. Okay, so we're going to work that again on these next 4 stitches. So we're going to wrap our hook twice, and we're going to front post on the 3rd stitch. And then front post on the 4th stitch. And then we're going to go back and front post on the 1st stitch of this section. And front post on the 2nd stitch of this section. And we're going to continue to work that all the way across the row. So on the next section of 4 stitches, we're going to wrap our hook twice, front post on the 3rd stitch, and then front post on the 4th stitch, and then we're going to front post on the 1st stitch of this section, and then front post on the 2nd stitch of this section. Okay, and again on the next 4 stitches, we're going to front post on the 3rd stitch, front post on the 4th stitch, and then front post on the 1st stitch, and front post on the 2nd stitch. Okay, we've got 2 more repeats for this row. So again, we're going to front post on the 3rd stitch first, and then front post on the 4th stitch, then we front post on the 1st stitch, oops, and then front post on the 2nd stitch. On this row, it's not too difficult for you to be able to see what you're doing, so I just need to pull a bit more yarn out. So last repeat for this row, we're going to front post on the 3rd stitch of this section, and then front post on the 4th stitch of this section, and then so sometimes you have to pull the stitches apart so you can see them a little bit better, but on this row you should be able to see your stitches quite easily. So we're now doing a front post on the 1st stitch of the section, and another front post on the 2nd stitch of the section. And then into that final double crochet, we're going to do a double crochet. Just like so. Okay, and that is what the first row of the pattern looks like. Okay, we're now going to turn our work and chain 2, which don't count as a stitch. So we're chaining 2 and we're going to double crochet into this first stitch. So your row always starts and ends with a double crochet. So into these first 2 stitches here, we are going to back post double crochets. So to do the back post double crochets, we wrap our hook, we pop our hook through the back of the stitch like so, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then finish off your double crochet. And we're going to do another back post double crochet. So when you do this, feel free to turn your work and make sure you're putting your hook in the right place and you're not getting tangled in amongst the other stitches. Okay, and that is the start of this row. Okay, we are now going to work back post treble crochets. So we're going to skip these first 2 stitches here and we're going to work into the next 2 stitches first. So we wrap our hook twice and we back post treble crochet. So 1, 2, and 3, and then again back post double crochet. Back post treble crochet, like so. Okay. We're then going to back post treble crochet into these 2 stitches here. So you need to maneuver your hook in between the stitches and make sure you're putting it into the right place. So what I found when I first worked this stitch was that I was accidentally putting my hook in between these 2 stitches here. So we want to be able to back post in this section here, like so. So we're going to wrap our hook twice and then we're going to go, can you see that properly? So let me start that again. Okay, so we're going to wrap our hook twice and then the hook is going around that stitch like so. So we'll pull that yarn through and then finish off our treble crochet. And then again, we're going to wrap our hook twice and then go in up through this gap here and then back down to pick up our yarn and finish off your treble crochet. Okay, we're then going to move to our next 4 stitches. So again, back post double crochets with back post double crochets, goodness me, back post treble crochets all the way across this row. Okay, so we're going to skip these 2 stitches here and work into, so we're skipping 1 and 2 and working into 3 and 4 first. Okay, so we wrap our hook twice, back post into stitch 3 and finish your treble crochet. Okay, then we wrap our hook twice, back post into stitch 4 and finish your treble crochet. Okay, and then we wrap our hook twice and we back post into the first stitch of this section. So my fingers are in the way. So up this through this side and then back down in between, making sure we're coming above these 2 stitches from the previous row. Okay, I think I pulled this a little tight. There we go. And then we finish our treble crochet. Like so. And again, wrap our hook twice and back post treble crochet. Oops, dropped the stitch. Let's try that again. Finish this stitch. Okay, and this is what it looks like on the opposite side. So you're adding on, I can't think of the right word. You are continuing the woven cross pattern from the previous row. Okay, so let's move on to the next 4 stitches. Pull out some more yarn. Okay, we're going to wrap our hook twice and skip the first 2 stitches of this section, back post into the 3rd stitch and finish our treble crochet. And wrap our hook twice, back post into the 4th and finish our treble crochet. And then we wrap our hook twice and then back post into the 1st stitch of this section and finish our treble crochet. Then wrap our hook twice and back post into the 2nd stitch of this section. Okay, now I have been working this stitch pretty much every day for the last 3 weeks while I've been working on my crochet, on my Celtic Weave Jumper. So I think I've got a bit of a handle on it, but believe me when I say this stitch was very fiddly when I first started it. So give yourself some time to adjust to the stitch, and just make sure that after every row, I'll show you after this row, but after every row you're going back and you are checking your stitches to make sure they are sitting in the right place, and I'll show you why as well. So this is the last group of 4 stitches of this row. After this stitch, we'll have 3 stitches left of our row. And we are going to back post double crochet these next 2 stitches. So 1 and 2, and then a double crochet in the final stitch. Okay, that's what the back of your pattern looks like. So this is a single-sided pattern. This will be the wrong side of your work, and this is what the right side of your work should look like. Okay, so you can see that your front and back posts are just joining every stitch, and so long as your pattern looks like that after every row, you're doing a great job. I'm going to show you the mistakes that I made when I first started. Okay, so when I first started, I wasn't paying attention to make sure that my hooks were going into the right places when I was working on my back post double crochets. And now you can see that where there should be 2 stitches, there are a number of areas where there is only 1. So it should, where is it? There we go. It should look like that, where there are 2 stitches crossing over itself, so a group of 4 stitches, 2 crisscrossing each way. However, because I put my hook into the wrong part of the stitches, it came up with only 1. So I've had to redo my jumper because I'd made this mistake throughout it. So this is actually the original one that I was working on. However, I'm no longer working on it. So let's work a couple more rows just to go through, make sure we've got the stitch pattern down. From here, it should be very straightforward for you to work on. But let's do a couple more rows to make sure we've got it down. So on the right side, we're going to start off with a chain 2, which again doesn't count. And we're going to double crochet into the first stitch. Okay. And now we are working front post double crochets across this row. And we're going to start by skipping these 2 stitches and working into these 2. So we're going to wrap our hook twice, front post treble crochet into the 3rd stitch of these first 4, and then front post treble crochet into the 4th stitch of these first 4. We're then going to go back and front post into the 1st stitch, and front post into the 2nd stitch. Okay, we'll move over to the next 4 stitches and we're going to front post, so we're going to skip the first 2 stitches. So now we're working on these 2 stitches at the back there, okay, and these 2 stitches over the front here. So we're going to skip these 2 stitches here, wrap our hook twice and front post into this 3rd stitch, and front post into this 4th stitch, and then we're going to front post into this 1st stitch. So we push, pick it up from underneath those 2 there, and then we're going to front post into the 2nd stitch as well. I'll show you one more time on this side. We're going to front post into the 3rd stitch of this group of 4, front post into the 4th stitch of this group of 4, and then front post into the 1st stitch of this group of 4, and front post into the 2nd stitch of this group of 4. So I'm going to finish off the rest of this row and I will meet you back at the other end. Okay, so we finished our 3rd row. I'm going to turn and work on our back post stitches. So we're going to chain 2, still doesn't count, and double crochet into the 1st stitch, and then into the first 2 stitches of this row we are going to back post double crochet. Oops. Okay, and now we are going to work on our back post trebles. So we're going to skip the first 2 stitches and we're going to back post treble into the 3rd stitch of this section, and then again into the 4th stitch of this section, and then into the 1st stitch of this section, and then into the 2nd stitch of this section. Oops, let's do that one again. So I need more yarn again. I've tangled myself up with the yarn underneath my feet, so it's proving a little difficult to pull out. Let's do a back post treble into this last stitch of this section. There we go. Okay, so into the next group of 4 stitches, we're going to skip the first 2 stitches, wrap our hook twice, and then back post into the 3rd stitch of this section, and back post into the 4th stitch of this section. We're then going to go back to the 1st stitch of this section, like so. And then the 2nd stitch of this section. And then one last time together, we're going to skip the first 2 stitches and then back post treble crochet into the 3rd stitch of this group of 4, and back post treble into the 4th stitch of this group of 4, and then back post treble into the 1st stitch of this group of 4. Nope, I lost it. So wrapped twice into the 1st stitch of this group of 4. Need to redo that. I didn't pull that. I made it far too loose there. So let's try that again. We're going to back post treble into the 1st stitch of this group of 4. Goodness me. There we go. And then back post treble into the 2nd stitch of this group of 4. Like so. I'm going to get the rest of the row finished and I will come back at the end. So we've worked up, we've got 3 stitches left at the end of the row, and these 2 here are back post double crochets, actual doubles this time. I haven't tripped over my own words. So back post doubles, and then a double crochet into the last stitch. And there you have it. That is the 2-row repeat for the Celtic weave stitch. I think this is a lovely little stitch to practice for crochet cables, as it shows you how to work with the stitches and how to maneuver the stitches for your front and back post double crochets or treble crochets. So there we have it. That is your Celtic weave stitch. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm always happy to help. But that's it. Happy crocheting.